Have no fear, the Digipreneur is here. Keron Rose joins us on the Zoom line. Always a joy to touch base and to talk to Keron. We learn so much every single Tuesday. And let me just say, thanks as always for putting aside the time, Keron. Great to see you, my friend.
Thank you once again for having me, and always a pleasure to be here.
That's right. So what's on the agenda today? I know obviously we dealt with revenue streams and all that for musicians last week, and I look forward to our discourse on this Tuesday morning.
Yeah, so I wanted to address a pretty big topic. It's an elephant in the room that we kind of talk about, but I don't think people understand the impact that it's really having. And that is, has the Trinidad and Tobago environment become too stifling to really build or grow a business? Now, I'm saying this in the vein of when you're thinking about the money that we generate when it comes into the financial systems, if you do not shop online to buy your goods, your raw materials to bring things in, if you're somebody that doesn't travel, you might not have noticed this, but we're in a situation right now that's become so dire that it was really highlighted over the past week when we went out to fintech islands, where our money is trapped in the Trinidad and Tobago financial system. And when we leave these shores, if you don't have a credit card that has a ridiculously high US limit, JW, we don't have access to any of our money.
Yeah, there are limits on what, the said credit card?
So let's break it down like this, right? Let me give you guys an example. So the last week I've been in the beautiful island of Barbados for the Fintech Islands event, right? All of us are checking in. A whole contingency from Trinidad and Tobago has gone down. Now, this is a brand new hotel that literally just opened weeks ago, right? So they're still kind of figuring things out. Now, when we were doing our reservations online, everybody thought they had made the reservation online and that their payment went through on their credit cards. Only when we realized when we landed, they're like, no, our systems aren't set up. So even you guys put in the credit card information, it did not take the money, but we were gonna take the money here in person. And collectively, all of us looked at each other like, this is a problem. Some people have a credit card. Some people did not book the reservation for themselves and they had no access to money. I'm in a situation where I do have a credit card, but the limit is 500 US, but none of our bank cards work outside of Trinidad. So it got to the point where a lot of us had no way of paying for the reservation because our money is all trapped in Trinidad and Tobago, and the bank cards don't work. Some of us have very low US limits, and we actually have no way of paying for some of these things outside. And it's become a major, major problem, because how do you do business when you have no access to your money? How do you travel when you have no access to your money?
So how does the tech now help bring some kind of solution, some kind of ease to this current dilemma? Because what you're describing there happens in real time to people every single day when they travel and when they try to conduct business. I know you would have mentioned some weeks ago people being able to pay with a card and use their phone and stuff, but that's a local framework. Is there anything in place for a regional setup right now, Keron?
Well, this is the problem, right? So whilst I was at the conference, I was able to sit down with some MasterCard people, some Visa people, and we literally went through every possible way where if you were traveling, what access do you have to your own money? We're not asking about taking loans, nothing like that. You have the money, but you have no access because the bank cards don't work. Some bank cards, I think 1 or 2 bank cards, give you access to 100 US per day. And in those meetings with Visa, MasterCard, there is no technology solution because the problem is a legislation issue. And we're hearing it's economic, we're spending more Forex than we're generating, but then you pick up the newspaper 2 days ago and it says we have no economic crisis based on what central bank is saying. So we don't have a definitive answer, but we know that the solution is not a technology solution. So when it comes to these types of things, people now need to start thinking about what are the alternative ways to kind of get their money outside of Trinidad. And to me, This is a short-term solution, but obviously there's going to have ripple effects. So one of the things I did this year when I went to Florida a couple weeks ago was I opened up a U.S. bank account, and every which way I possibly can, whether it be through Western Union, a MoneyGram, a PayPal, I am constantly trying to send money outside of Trinidad to fund my US bank account. That way, when I travel or I need to make purchases online for goods and materials for my business, I don't have an account that has limitations, because that's crippling the business. I travel a lot for business, and if I have no access to money, that's a problem.
Yeah, it is. And, strangely, we all, coming through the ranks will always hear the term cash is king. And in some places, I remember trying to check out of a hotel last year in New York, and they refused the cash. They said they do not accept cash. It must be a credit card. So we would think that, okay, if you work with physical cash, problem solved. I guess, yes, in the islands, probably people would take it over the counter, but there are certain parts of the world where they don't want the cash. They want you to pay with the card. And if there's a limitation, there's a limit on said card, we find ourselves in some serious problems.
Cash is a double-edged sword, because you go over to the Bahamas, the Atlantis, the Baha Mar, they're cashless. More hotels are going cashless. They don't want cash. And then you also have, how many countries do we know of that have come out and said they do not want TT cash? You can't go to a lot of these countries with TT cash because they're not accepting it. And if we don't have the ability to now buy US dollars, you're going into the banks want you to stand in a queue, apply for 200 US once you have a valid ticket, only to get 200 US, and it takes 2 to 5 business days to even get 200 US, or you're going into the airport and they're charging you 8.9 with a cap of, I think it's 3,000 or 5,000 US, but you're getting charged 8.9, and that's really your only point of contact to go and get US, but then you're still running the risk that a lot of places are now not accepting cash. It's a major, major problem that's exasperated because of what's happening in the political arena in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, it's one, again, as you said, you would have had that conversation with tech, but it's I guess, legislative issue. It's one that needs to that conversation needs to happen on a different level. Do you anticipate any kind of solution, any kind of conversation in that regard soon?
So as of right now, I mean, I would say no, there's no conversation right now, because we just got the news 2 months ago, Republic Bank cut their U.S. allocation in half. So if that's any indication, and they're the first bank to do that, we might be starting to see the rest of the banks follow suit in cutting that U.S. allocation. But what I would say to this, right, and the reason we're bringing it up, we don't just want to highlight problems and not bring up solutions. Right now, even if it's a short-term solution, business owners need to start registering their businesses, unfortunately, outside of Trinidad. And as best as you possibly can, even though we have limits, you need to start moving money outside of Trinidad into those accounts, into those external accounts, because you have no cash flow and you have no access to buy your goods online. You don't have access to your money when you are traveling. So even though there's going to be taxes and there's some other framework you need to learn, it's better you go and learn the taxes in the US or some of these other countries. That way you have access to your money and you don't have the limitations that we do in Trinidad and Tobago. And if you do not have a business and you're somebody who is just, a regular working person, it's best to start thinking about how can you go and take a trip over to the US. I know not everybody might have a passport, but those who can, how do you go over, take a flight to Miami, go open up an account with the Bank of America, a TD Bank, a Chase, any one of those. You can open up on a bank account as a non-citizen. It literally takes 20 minutes with 2 forms of ID and a proof of a U.S. address. So there's a variety of things that you could use for that proof. But open up that account and start to move your money piece by piece into that account. That way your money is not trapped in Trinidad and you have some flexibility, whether it be to go and shop online, to buy your goods online, but also when you're traveling, you're not stranded, because that's happening to a lot of us right now.
So what went on with those who, obviously last week checking in, you said they would have done their transaction online. It didn't register with the hotel's system. What went on with those folks in Barbados?
Oh my goodness! I'm glad you asked that. It was insane. So we had, and these are some people in really good positions, right? One of the guys had to call a friend in Barbados and have him bring cash to the hotel, then call his wife back home in Trinidad to have him Western Union the money to the friend to pay him back. For me, I had to ask somebody there who I know, their pockets are all right? I had to ask them to pay for me, and then I would just pay them back, because it was easier for me to send them the money. It would have taken 2 to 5 days for me to get the money to them, but there was no way I could have paid upon checking because of the amount of time it would have taken me to move money from Trinidad over to the US. So who could call friends? Called friends, who end up having to bunk in other people's room because they had no access to their money, had to access, and the cherry on top was one of the sponsors of the event could not get their money to the event holders in the US. It was, again, it's a massive problem that's getting exacerbated now.
I'm happy that you were able to describe this in real time and show the real human impact, and the kind of, because that, when you're traveling and you're out of your land, obviously you want things to run smooth, you want to have a great experience, and what you just described could really take a toll on your mental and your emotional well-being, because you're stressed, you're feeling uncomfortable, and you have to kind of sometimes put people out their way, or you could feel lost in that kind of scenario. So I'm happy you were able to share with the nation what transpired.
AW, I mean, let's bring it to localized context. What do your parents and the older folks always tell you? Walk with your VEX money.
Yeah.
What happens when you have no access to your VEX money?
You're more VEX. Your VEX. I mean, that you're double VEX then, or you have VEX money? You can't use your VEX money. Wow. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's what we're going through right now in Trinidad and Tobago, and I don't think people realize just how bad it is. Having money and no access to your money, and unless it's touching the group of people who they have all the foreign exchange and they don't have this problem, the rest of us do have this problem, and it is a major problem. So those are some of the solutions, folks. Send Western Union money to friends and family outside before you travel. Open up bank accounts around the world, wherever you possibly can, and start to now fund your money. Until something is done locally, you need to protect yourself, get your money outside of Trinidad. That way you're not stranded or trapped in these positions because of the localized limitations.
Hey, Keron, as always, sincere thanks. Any closing remarks as we wrap things up today?
Great, folks. Again, there are ways, if you're a business owner, there are companies like Jumpstart Filings that will go and open up a U.S. account. They'll get your tax ID, your EIN number. They'll do that all virtually. For people that are opening up local accounts, I mean, if you're regular Joe, go make a trip, open up a bank account, and get the money outside.
Keron, all the best. Our Digipreneur talking to us in real time and bringing, of course, some of the issues people encounter when they travel, and more so bringing some solutions to the table. Digipreneur on this Tuesday. Up next, our conversation on cancer. Dr. LeBlanc, she joins me on set. See you soon.